Time now for a look at what's happening in our community. Brought to you by Leith Nissan in Cary.
It's 4 o'clock. It's time for a test drive. Visit sportdurst.com.
I'm Sarah Redblang. My co-anchor Siobhan Riley is off today. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. Law enforcement are cracking down on impaired drivers this St. Patrick's Day weekend. It's part of a push to increase patrols to keep impaired drivers off the roads. It's part of the St. Patrick's Day Booze It and Lose It enforcement campaign. Muslim students and their supporters continue to protest after Shaw University announced it will officially shut down its mosque to the public. It's been closed since the pandemic. Protesters say the church on campus was able to reopen to the public. The statement from the school, however, says neither the mosque nor the chapel are generally open to the public, only to students. And Fort Bragg is enforcing speed limits on base. Starting April 1st, anyone going 15 miles or more over the speed limit will lose their on-base driving privileges for a month, followed by more severe penalties. Let's check out your weekend forecast.
Good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Vernon Turner. Cooler air continues to find its way into our area behind last night's cold front that brought in that rainfall. Some of those showers carried over into early this morning, but thankfully we're dry now, just on the cool side. So grab a jacket as we deal with highs limited to the 50s for many of you, maybe a few low 60s for the Sandhills. That cold air really dominates tonight. Lows overnight into tomorrow morning in the upper 20s to mid 30s.
Good afternoon. It's great to have you here with us on a Saturday on Spectrum News 1. It's March 18th, and we're following a number of stories for you today, including some new North Carolina laws going into effect, continuing coverage of some big national stories, and of course, we're staying on top of all things March Madness. But first, let's get into our top story. New today, former President Donald Trump posting on Truth Social that he will be arrested next Tuesday. This follows reports that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is working with local law enforcement to arrange logistics for his arrest. Now, this arrest would be over speculated hush money paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels. It's not confirmed at this time if Trump has been contacted by the Manhattan DA's office about this potential arrest. Spectrum News political reporter Errol Lewis has more.
The president, former president, faces criminal charges, very likely, related to the episode in 2016 when he was a candidate for president, and during that campaign, allegedly paid money indirectly to the porn actress Stormy Daniels to not disclose the fact that the two of them had an affair. And we know that a lot of those facts are not in controversy. The lawyer, Trump's former lawyer through whom the money was passed, Michael Cohen, acknowledged it. In fact, went to prison for doing it. These are campaign violations. There are other violations involved if you want to get into the legalities of it. But the bottom line is a crime may have been committed here. Trump's own Justice Department acknowledged that a crime probably was committed here. And somebody has to answer for it. And that somebody is Donald Trump. This is absolutely without precedent. You know, we've had 46 presidents. The number who have been criminally charged even after leaving office is 0. And so this would be the first time this has ever happened in American history. It is very, very noteworthy. And the reality is, after stalling for a number of years, Trump himself on social media this morning, and prior to that, his attorney, Joseph Tacopina, have more or less acknowledged that they're not going to be able to stall any longer. They're not going to be able to just quash this case or prevent the prosecutor, in this case, the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, from moving forward with what is a very document-heavy case. You know, this is not a question of he said, she said. This is not about ambiguities about whether an action taken by Donald Trump was or was not criminal. All of this is documented. We've heard audio, conversations with Donald Trump talking about the payment of the money. There's bank records. There are legal records, again, including from Trump's own Justice Department, that establish that these things happened. So this is really, we're in uncharted territory. Yeah. A former president, it seems, is going to be criminally charged for the very first time.
Thanks, Errol, for that. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's legal troubles are continuing in the situation regarding the classified documents found at his residence in Mar-a-Lago. His attorney is expected to once again testify about the former president's handling of those documents. Evan Corcoran had previously testified, but declined to answer some questions, citing attorney-client privilege. Now, this week, a federal judge sided with the DOJ, who argued he should testify again. The DOJ claims Corcoran's discussions with Trump may have been part of an attempt to plan a crime. This decision hands Trump another loss as his team tries to stop investigators from accessing direct conversations the former president had with some of his closest advisors. And of course, you can follow this story and all the other local, national, and international headlines on the Spectrum News app, available for free wherever you get your apps. Tougher punishments for rioters are set to become law later this year in North Carolina. Governor Roy Cooper says he will allow the measure to become law without his signature. The new bill would increase jail time by a couple of years or longer for those participating in or inciting riots. Cooper previously vetoed a similar bill in 2020. In a press release, the governor said that changes were made to the legislation after his previous veto, but he still has concerns. He says property damage and violence are already illegal, and his continuing concerns about the erosion of the First Amendment and the disparate impacts on communities of color will prevent him from signing the legislation. An update now on the death of an 8-year-old in Nash County in early February. In a letter to the county, the NCDHHS says it's identified multiple violations in the Nash County Department of Social Services, which led to the child's death. Patricia Rax of Nash County was charged with the murder of her granddaughter, Crystal Lane, back in February. The Nash County DSS had an open investigation at the time of Lane's death after they received a report of suspected child abuse. The report, released by the state, says the department failed to properly conduct supervision, take new reports of injuries found, or complete follow-up interviews. The report also says the department did not check the child's medical exams or obtain previous Child Protective Services history from South Carolina, where the family moved from. The county has 30 days to address the violations. Federal regulators now say it will take 3 months to clean up the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. The head of the EPA had strong words for the rail company responsible, saying Norfolk Southern needs to speed up its operations.
This is real progress, but we believe Norfolk Southern could be moving faster to remove contaminated soil from East Palestine. We're also concerned to hear that certain states are inhibiting the company's ability to execute contracts.
The train wreck early last month ignited a days-long fire, sending chemical fumes into the air. Residents continue to complain of health problems in the aftermath of the crash. Norfolk Southern says in a statement it shares the EPA's urgency to complete the remediation safely and thoroughly at the derailment site.
When you're entering a competition or a bracket challenge, you should be really wary of what kind of information you're providing.
Coming up after the break, March Madness scams are circulating. We're sitting down with the Better Business Bureau for the tips and red flags to look out for in all the tournament fun. We'll be right back.
Happy Saturday, everyone. I'm meteorologist Vernon Turner. Glad to have you here in the Weather on the One's Forecast Center. We had a cold front move in and across our area last night. It's now offshore, but the rainfall associated with that front was still in our area early this morning, so that's why we woke up to some wet roads and sidewalks. Thankfully, now we're drier, and we're actually seeing that cloud cover break apart, which is very good news there. Bad news is we're not enjoying the warm feel of the 60s and 70s like we had yesterday. Now that we're behind the front, cooler air making its way into the area. That's why highs today, 50s and 60s, and even colder conditions are on the way tonight. And as we look ahead to the rest of the week, and I think tonight will drop down into the upper 20s to mid 30s. So that'll prompt freeze warnings for parts of our area. And then that cold air truly dominant through the day tomorrow. Highs at best low to mid 50s, and then Sunday night going into Monday morning, check that out, we're in the mid to upper 20s, so that'll be another round of freeze warnings. As we look ahead to Monday, spring officially begins on Monday, and it will not feel like spring. Highs at best mid to upper 50s, and then we'll have another cold night Monday night into Tuesday, but thankfully by Tuesday afternoon we'll find our way into the 60s as we look ahead to next week. But until then, let's not rush through your weekend. We are just trying to get farther and farther behind last night's cold front. After a cloudy, overcast morning, blue sky and sunshine finding its way back overhead this afternoon. We just wish we had warmer temperatures. Once again, 50s to low 60s for a high today. If you're heading out tonight, grab a jacket. We'll cool through the 50s, find our way into the 40s as early as 8, 9 o'clock. Before temperatures rest in the upper 20s to mid 30s for a nighttime low. Warmer temperatures do return next week. Those details in a few minutes.
Law enforcement officers believe the recent increase in the number of stolen cars may have something to do with a recent TikTok trend. Officers here at the Durham Police Department say they've seen a large increase in Kia and Hyundai break-ins. Now, so far this year, 165 vehicles were stolen in the Durham area alone. That's a 33% increase from this time last year. About 1/3 of those cars are Kia and Hyundais. Now, these brands are being stolen at 5 times the rate they were last year. Thieves are able to steal specific models with only a screwdriver and a USB cable. Senior Officer Antonio Gill tries to help prevent these kinds of break-ins.
I know we want to start our vehicles up early in the morning when it's cold to get them warm inside, but we recommend do not leave your car unattended.
At the thefts, many local Kia and Hyundai dealerships are offering free anti-theft software upgrades. Officer Gill says to lock your car, take your keys with you, and don't leave anything valuable out in the open. Governor Cooper signed a proclamation on the start of Azalea Fest 2023 from April 12th to the 16th. This year marks the 76th Azalea Fest, a coastal event that started back in 1948. That's when 60,000 spectators came to see the first crowning of Queen Azalea. The festival is a nationally recognized showcase of the Wilmington community's rich array of artwork, gardens, and history.
It's a wonderful event for our state, well beyond the borders of Wilmington and New Hanover County. I think there's a great pride in the Azalea Festival all over North Carolina. I know that I have been a number of times, and it helps us to welcome spring.
And by 2024, the North Carolina Azalea Festival will be a nationally recognized North Carolina signature event with an expansive network of support and financial stability. They generate $1 million in sponsorship revenue every year and at least $50,000 in grant revenue. With March Madness tipping off, there's no shortage of contests, bracket challenges, and some sort of promotions all over the place for this tournament. But it's important for basketball fans to be on the lookout for scammers trying to take advantage of the tournament. And that's why we invited Nick Hill with the Better Business Bureau on the show today. Nick, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Of course. So there are a lot of legitimate sites that do offer bracket challenges and fun competitions. So how can we tell the difference between the real deal and a scam?
Yeah, a smart way you can start is with visiting bbb.org. So if you come across a website or an app, you can look them up on there and see if there's any sort of history of complaints against that business. Maybe too, check the reviews and see what other consumers are saying so you can get a good idea if they are legitimate or if they're possibly a scam.
Websites, they often ask, even authentic ones, do ask for personal information. Are there any red flags that we can look out for with that?
Yeah, when you're entering a competition or a bracket challenge, you should be really wary of what kind of information you're providing. Typically, a legitimate organization is not going to ask for too much personal information. Chances are, if they're asking for more than you'd expect, that's going to be a red flag. And if you are going to have to enter in some sort of payment information to join a bracket challenge or a competition, be sure to pay with a credit card. If something goes wrong or there is some sort of scam involved, chances are a credit card company is going to have your back.
Let's say we do get excited, accidentally get sucked into a scam. Nick, what are our options?
Yeah, if you get sucked into a scam, you should try your best not to panic. Report it to as many people as you can. You can report it to BBB with our scam tracker. You can report it to law enforcement and the state attorney general, and possibly put a freeze on what sort of payment information you provided, whether that's your bank account or your credit card, in case a scammer has gained access to that information.
And last quick question, Nick, for you. It may seem obvious, but I don't know anybody who really reads through the fine print. And I know there is a lot of that with some of these contests. Is that something that we can skim, or do we need to get a snack, sit down, and read it word for word?
You know, as boring and as painful as it might sound, it is going to be worthwhile to read these terms and conditions, especially if there's any sort of incentive involved in these competitions. So, you may want to set aside some time to do that.
All right, Nick Hill with the Better Business Bureau. Always looking out for us with your tips. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
And it's been a tradition for some political figures to release their bracket picks ahead of the tournament. Governor Roy Cooper has the University of Houston going all the way in the men's tournament, so there's still a little bit of hope for his bracket. Cooper's pick of Duke making it to the Final Four is also still safe, but he also had NC State making it to the Sweet 16. The Wolfpack fell to Creighton yesterday, 72-63. We'll have more on all things March Madness later on in our show and in the Chevrolet Sports Night recap. More troubles in the banking sector as the parent company for Silicon Valley Bank filed for bankruptcy. We'll have the details on that and more news from across the nation when we return.